The crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with ethereal light, casting prismatic reflections across the vast amphitheater. 212 species representing the combined power of the known universe sat in tiered rows that climbed toward a domed ceiling that mirrored the star patterns of the galactic core. Massive holographic displays hovered in the center of the chamber, tallying votes in real time as the Council rendered its judgment on humanity. Commander Elena Reyes stood with perfect military posture at the center of the floor, her olive-green diplomatic uniform adorned only with the Earth Defense Fleet insignia and a single row of service ribbons. She was the picture of calm, though her dark eyes scanned the crowd with calculated precision, assessing each delegate's reaction as the votes appeared on the displays. At 48, with streaks of silver accenting her black hair, pulled into a tight bun, Elena had spent half her life representing humanity among the stars. She had witnessed firsthand the growing suspicion toward her species. Beside her, Lieutenant Marcus Lee shifted his weight from one foot to the other, barely containing his frustration. At 28, he represented the new generation of humans born after first contact. His service in the diplomatic corps was meant to groom him for leadership, though Elena sometimes questioned if his temperament was suited for the delicate dance of interspecies relations. "They're voting against us," Marcus whispered, his voice tense. "3/4 have already cast for Exile." "Patience, Lieutenant," Elena replied, without moving her lips, her voice so quiet that only Marcus could hear. "Watch and learn." The tension in the chamber was palpable. The crystalline architecture, once designed to symbolize transparency and unity, now seemed to amplify the weight of judgment pressing down upon the human representatives. Light fractured through the quartz-like pillars, creating both halos and shattered patterns, a fitting metaphor for humanity's current position within the galactic community. "The votes are tallied," announced High Speaker Zorlat, a 12-foot-tall avian, whose iridescent feathers shifted colors with each movement. The being's voice reverberated through translation nodes throughout the chamber. With a majority of 178 to 34, the Galactic Council has determined that humanity poses an unacceptable risk to the harmony and security of our shared space. Marcus tensed beside Elena, his hand instinctively moving toward the ceremonial sidearm that all military representatives were permitted to wear in council chambers, though the weapons were of course deactivated. Elena placed a light hand on his forearm, a gentle reminder of protocol and restraint. "Therefore," continued High Speaker Zorlat, "by the authority vested in this council by the Charter of Cooperative Species, humanity is hereby ordered to withdraw from all shared territories, outposts, stations, and diplomatic installations for a period of no less than 6 standard cycles." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. 6 months of exile was unprecedented in recent council history. Not since the Corlean dispute had any species been so completely ostracized. Humanity will have exactly 180 rotations to remove all personnel technology and influences from council space. Zorlat continued. "Any human found in restricted zones after this period will be subject to immediate detention and their assets forfeit to the council." Marcus leaned toward Elena, his voice a heated whisper. "Commander, we should call for immediate military response. The fleet at Proxima Station could—" "Silence, Lieutenant." Elena commanded, her voice, still quiet, but carrying the unmistakable edge of authority. Her mind was already calculating trajectories, logistics, and survival rates. The choice was clear: leave or die. There was no middle ground with the Council's decision. High Speaker Zorlat spread massive wings in the traditional gesture that signaled the conclusion of Council proceedings. "Does the human delegation wish to make a statement before this session is adjourned?" Elena stepped forward, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. 178 species had just voted to cast her people into the interstellar wilderness, and 34 had stood with humanity. She committed both lists to memory. The delegation of Earth acknowledges the Council's decision. She said, her voice clear and strong, betraying none of the turmoil within. We request formal documentation of the specific territories designated as restricted and confirmation that human-controlled systems remain under Earth sovereignty. The High Speaker's head tilted slightly, a gesture of mild surprise. Perhaps they had expected protests, threats, or emotional pleas. Your request is granted, Commander Reyes. The documentation will be transmitted within the hour. Elena nodded, once turned with military precision, and strode toward the exit. Marcus followed, his face flushed with barely contained anger. As the massive doors of the council chamber sealed behind them, Marcus finally exploded. How can you accept this so calmly? They've practically declared war on us. No, Elena replied, activating her secure communicator. They've made a grave miscalculation, and we're about to show them exactly how grave. Within 12 hours, Elena had convened an emergency session of Earth's Unified Command. Representatives from every major colony and station joined via quantum-entangled communications, their faces grim, as she outlined what would come to be known as Operation Swift Exodus. The Council has given us 6 months, Elena explained to the assembly of military and civilian leaders projected in the secure conference room. We will be ready in 4. Ready for what exactly? Asked Governor Santiago of New Avalon, the most populous human colony outside the Sol system. To disappear, Elena replied simply. Completely and utterly. I am authorizing the immediate dismantling and withdrawal of all human technology personnel and intellectual property from Council space. The silence that followed was deafening. It was Director Kamala Okafor of the Science Directorate who finally spoke. Commander Reyes, you're talking about dismantling infrastructure that took decades to build. The atmospheric processing plants on Ganymede alone support 16 different species. The Jumpgate network will be disassembled and transported back to Earth-controlled space, Elena finished firmly, as will every piece of human technology currently being used by Council worlds. This is madness, protested Trade Minister Wang. We're talking about trillions in assets, millions of personnel. The logistics alone are being calculated as we speak, Elena interrupted. I understand the magnitude of what I'm proposing, but consider the alternative. A slow, humiliating retreat that leaves our technology and innovation in the hands of those who just voted to exile us. Marcus, who had been silently watching from the corner of the room, stepped forward. The commander is right. If we're forced to leave, we take everything with us. Let them see what the galaxy looks like without human ingenuity. For the first time since the Council's verdict, Elena allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps Marcus was learning after all. The next weeks unfolded in a carefully orchestrated dance of withdrawal. On New Avalon, biologists and agricultural specialists began the meticulous process of deconstructing the vast network of genetically engineered flora that provided oxygen and food for dozens of species. The plants developed exclusively by human scientists were carefully extracted root systems, and all leaving behind barren plots where lush growth had once thrived. On Space Station Orion, the central hub for trade in 3 sectors, human engineers began disassembling defensive systems. They started with redundant units, ensuring that security remained intact, while gradually reducing capacity. By the time they had removed 50% of the defensive grid, neighboring species began to notice. Complaints were filed, with the Council claiming that humans were endangering station safety. Elena authorized a simple response to all complaints. As per Council directive, humanity is withdrawing its technology from shared spaces. If this creates concerns for security, perhaps the Council should reconsider its decision. Ambassador Griffin Moon, stationed on the diplomatic vessel, peacekeepers engaged in a different kind of strategy. Rather than ameliorating tensions, he deliberately stoked them, arranging meetings with the 34 species that had voted in humanity's favor. We regret that we will no longer be able to provide the medical technology your people have come to rely on," he informed the Nilarian representative, referring to the synthetic organ printers that had saved countless Nilarian lives. "But we respect the Council's decision and must withdraw all proprietary technology." As reports flooded in from across Council space, Elena found herself working 20-hour days coordinating the massive undertaking while dealing with increasingly panicked messages from Council representatives. At night, in the brief hours she allowed herself for rest, doubts crept in. Could they really complete this exodus in the time allotted? And what would become of humanity once they retreated to the handful of systems they controlled outright? Marcus had proven himself invaluable, taking charge of the military aspects of the withdrawal with unexpected efficiency. He had matured in the weeks since the Council's decision, channeling his anger into productive action. "We've completed Phase 1 withdrawals from 82% of secondary locations," he reported during their daily briefing. "Primary installations are at 47% dismantled. We're ahead of schedule in most sectors." Elena nodded, studying the holographic map that showed the progress of their withdrawal. Red indicators marked completed evacuations, yellow showed in-progress operations, and green highlighted locations still to be addressed. The map was turning steadily redder each day. "What about the Jumpgate network?" she asked, focusing on the connected lines that represented humanity's greatest contribution to galactic infrastructure. "That's where we're meeting the most resistance," Marcus admitted. "The Council has filed formal protests claiming the gates are now shared technology and not subject to withdrawal. Remind them that the primary control algorithms are proprietary Earth technology, developed by Dr. Eliza Chen and her team at MIT Galactic," Elena replied. "Without those algorithms, the gates are just expensive metal rings." Marcus made a note on his datapad. "There's something else you should know. We're getting reports of Council species attempting to copy our technology before we can remove it, particularly the medical systems and agricultural innovations." Elena had anticipated this. "Implement Protocol Dark Shield. All systems are to engage maximum encryption, and if tampering is detected, initiate complete data purges." "That's going to cause even more panic," Marcus warned. "Good," Elena said simply. "Let them panic. Let them understand exactly what they're losing." 3 months into Operation Swift Exodus, the galaxy was beginning to comprehend the magnitude of humanity's contribution to interstellar civilization. On 17 worlds, atmospheric processing plants had been carefully dismantled and removed, leading to air quality alerts, and in 3 cases, emergency evacuations of species that had become dependent on the enhanced oxygen mixture human technology provided. The medical consequences were even more dire. Without synthetic organ printers, regenerative therapy units, and specialized nanomedicine, mortality rates for certain species had already risen by measurable percentages. Council medical authorities scrambled to reverse engineer human technology, but found that key components had been removed with surgical precision, rendering the remaining equipment functionally useless. Through it all, Elena maintained a punishing schedule, coordinating the withdrawal while fielding increasingly desperate communications from Council representatives. Some offered compromises, others threatened retaliation, but she remained unmoved. The decision had been made, and humanity would abide by it to the letter. The true crisis came 48 hours before the official deadline. By that point, 98% of human personnel had been evacuated from Council space, and nearly all portable technology had been removed. All that remained was the Jumpgate network, the crucial infrastructure that made interstellar travel possible without months-long journeys at sublight speeds. Elena sat in the command center of the flagship Terrestrial Hope, watching as the final preparations were made for the most audacious phase of Operation Swift Exodus. Around her, the best engineers and physicists humanity had to offer made final calculations and triple-checked safety protocols. "All network nodes reporting ready, Commander," announced Chief Engineer Patel. "Quantum entanglement systems are synchronized. We can execute on your command." Elena took a deep breath. This was the point of no return. Once the jump gate network collapsed, there would be no going back to the way things were. Humanity would be truly on its own. She activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is Commander Reyes to all personnel. Prepare for Operation Go Dark. T-minus 10 minutes to execution." Throughout Council space, human technicians stationed at jump gates received the coded message. With practiced efficiency, they began the process of disengaging the proprietary control systems that made the gates function. One by one, the massive rings that had enabled interstellar civilization went dark, their luminous energy fields flickering and dying. In the Council chamber, the massive crystalline displays that had shown the vote for humanity's exile now displayed a cascade of emergency alerts as jump gates throughout the galaxy ceased functioning simultaneously. High Speaker Zorlat and the emergency session of counselors watched in horror as the intricate web of connections that bound their civilization together unraveled in real time. "What is happening?" demanded Counselor Vrax of the Tellurian hegemony. "The humans cannot do this, the gates are shared infrastructure." High Speaker Zorlat, wiser than most, simply closed all four eyes in an expression of profound regret. "They are not destroying the gates, Counselor. They are simply leaving and taking their knowledge with them." As the last jump gate went dark, Elena gave her final order. "Execute Protocol Quantum Silence." With that command, every piece of quantum communication technology of human origin throughout Council space shut down simultaneously. The effect was immediate and devastating. Not only was faster-than-light travel now impossible without the jump gates, but faster-than-light communication had also been severed. The galactic community, once connected by instantaneous quantum channels, was suddenly reduced to using light-speed communications that would take years to reach distant systems. On the bridge of the terrestrial hope, Marcus watched as the final telemetry data came, in confirming the success of Operation Go Dark. "It's done, Commander. We've gone completely silent." Elena nodded, feeling not triumph but a profound sense of loss. "Send the final message to the Council conventional channels only." Marcus transmitted the brief text. "As requested by Council Directive, humanity has withdrawn from shared space. We wish you prosperity in our absence." In the days that followed, the consequences of humanity's departure became increasingly severe. Without jump gates, interstellar commerce ground to a halt. Medical crises escalated as supplies could no longer be transported quickly between systems. Agricultural planets that had specialized in certain crops could not export their produce, leading to food shortages on worlds that had grown dependent on imports. The Galactic Council convened emergency session after emergency session, but with quantum communications down, many representatives could not attend in person or even participate remotely. The carefully balanced political system that had governed interstellar relations for centuries began to fracture under the strain. It was during one such fragmented session that Alexis Ramos, a researcher from the Altarian species who had specialized in human sociology, addressed the Council. Unlike many of her kind, Alexis had spent decades studying human culture and technology, and had been one of the few voices advocating against the exile. "Esteemed counselors," she began her translator, rendering her complex tonal language into the common galactic standard. "I have reviewed the documentation that led to our decision regarding humanity. I believe we have made a catastrophic error in judgment." Murmurs of dissent rippled through the chamber, but Alexis continued undeterred. Humanity was not merely a member species of our community. They were its circulatory system. Their jump gates, their communication networks, their medical and agricultural innovations, these were not just conveniences. They were the foundation upon which our modern galactic society was built. She activated a holographic display showing statistical projections. Based on current trends within one standard year, mortality rates will increase by 30% across Council space. Within 5 years, at least 7 member species face potential extinction due to lack of access to medical technology they have grown dependent upon. High Speaker Zorlat spread wing feathers in a gesture of distress. "What would you have us do, Researcher Ramos?" "The humans have gone. They have taken their technology and disappeared behind the borders of their sovereign systems." "And we drove them there," Alexis replied, her voice tinged with regret. "We exiled the solution and kept the problem. Now, we must face the consequences of our fear." While the Council grappled with the aftermath of humanity's departure, Elena Reyes and the collected fleet of Earth vessels were embarking on the most daring phase of their plan. Having withdrawn to the edge of Earth-controlled space, they now faced the ultimate challenge traversing the region known as the Void Passage. For centuries, the Void Passage had been considered impassable, a region of space where conventional physics seemed to break down, making both normal space travel and jump technology impossibly dangerous. It formed a natural barrier at the edge of the explored galaxy, beyond which no expedition had successfully ventured. But humanity, ever resourceful, had been secretly developing technology to cross this final frontier. The quantum bridge drive, a revolutionary propulsion system that could create temporary tunnels through the fabric of space-time itself, had been Earth's most closely guarded secret, developed by a team led by Dr. Sophia Nakamura at the Quantum Propulsion Laboratory. Now, with the entire human population of the galaxy consolidated into a fleet of thousands of vessels, the time had come to test the technology on an unprecedented scale. "All ships reporting ready," Commander Marcus informed Elena as they stood on the bridge of the Terrestrial Hope. "The quantum bridge generators are synchronized across the fleet." Elena surveyed the tactical display, showing the massive armada stretched out before them, every ship from the smallest personal transport to the largest colony vessels filled with humans and the technology they had retrieved from Council space. "Begin the sequence," she ordered, "and may whatever powers exist in this universe watch over us." The quantum bridge generators powered up simultaneously across the fleet, creating a cascading field of energy that enveloped the ships in a luminous blue glow. Space itself seemed to warp and bend around them as the technology forced open a passage through the previously impenetrable barrier. For 72 harrowing hours, the fleet traversed the Void Passage, each vessel linked to the others through carefully calibrated quantum fields. The journey pushed both technology and human endurance to their limits, but Elena's meticulous planning and the indomitable human spirit prevailed. When they emerged on the other side, the sensors of the lead ships detected something that brought tears to the eyes of even the most hardened officers: a triple-star system with no less than 10 planets, 3 of which preliminary scans indicated could support human life without significant terraforming. "We made it," Marcus whispered, gazing at the holographic representation of their new home. "Against all odds, we actually made it." Elena allowed herself a genuine smile, the first since the Council's fateful vote. "Operation Swift Exodus is complete," she announced to the fleet. "Welcome to New Horizon." The work of establishing a new human civilization began immediately. The first colony was founded on the most Earth-like of the planets named Terra Nova. The planet orbited the smallest of the 3 stars at a distance that created a climate similar to Earth's Mediterranean regions. Its gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's, but within parameters humans could adapt to, and its atmosphere, while requiring some processing, contained all the elements necessary for human survival. Colony ships deployed prefabricated habitats, while the technology recovered from Council space was repurposed for the new environment. Agricultural specialists began the process of adapting Earth crops to the local soil, and engineers established power grids using solar collectors, specially designed to harness the energy of the triple suns. Within 6 months, a functioning society had taken root. Without the constraints of Council regulations, and with the combined knowledge of humanity's best minds, technological development accelerated at an unprecedented rate. The quantum bridge technology that had enabled their exodus was refined and improved allowing exploration of the surrounding space. And it was during one such exploration mission that humanity made its most significant discovery. Since crossing the Void Passage, they were not alone. The fourth planet in the system, previously thought uninhabitable due to its dense atmosphere, was home to an indigenous pre-spaceflight civilization. The Novations, as they came to be called, were a species of bipedal silicon-based life forms, with a culture roughly equivalent to Earth's early Renaissance period. After careful observation, and following protocols developed from the lessons learned during humanity's experience with the Council, first contact was established. Unlike the cautious, often suspicious approach of the Council, humanity offered the Novations partnership rather than patronage. Human technology was shared openly, with education provided to help the Novations understand and eventually reproduce it themselves. In return, the Novations shared their profound knowledge of the local ecosystem and their unique philosophical perspective that helped humans adapt to life in their new home. 1 year after Operation Swift Exodus, Elena Reyes stood on the balcony of the newly constructed government center in Nova City, watching as human and Novation children played together in the central plaza below. The three suns of the New Horizon system cast multiple shadows beneath them, a constant reminder of how far they had come, and how different their new lives were from the old. Marcus joined her, now wearing the insignia of a full commander himself. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," he remarked, leaning against the railing beside her. "A year since we were cast out," Elena replied, "and found something better than what we left behind." "Do you ever wonder what's happening back in Council space?" Marcus asked. "Whether they regret their decision yet?" Elena considered the question. "I'm sure some do. Alexis Ramos would for one. She always saw humanity more clearly than most. Should we try to re-establish contact? Now that the quantum bridge technology is stable, we could theoretically create a communication channel." Elena watched the children below, human and Novation alike, their laughter carrying up to the balcony on the warm breeze. "Not yet," she decided. "Let them come to us if they can. In the meantime, we have a new civilization to build." In the years that followed, the human settlements on New Horizon flourished. The principles upon which they built their new society, equality, knowledge sharing, and mutual respect, created a foundation far stronger than the fear-based hierarchy of the Council. The partnership with the Novations evolved into a true symbiotic relationship, each species complementing the other's strengths and compensating for their weaknesses. The quantum bridge technology continued to advance, allowing exploration far beyond the New Horizon system. Other habitable worlds were discovered and new colonies established. And on each world, humanity carried the lessons learned from their exile, that true civilization is built on cooperation, not domination, on understanding, not fear. 7 years after the Exodus, the long-range sensors detected an anomaly at the edge of the New Horizon system, a ship of unfamiliar design attempting to navigate the treacherous approach to the Void Passage. Analysis of its technology suggested it was of Council origin, though heavily modified. Elena, now serving as the elected administrator of the United Colonies, authorized a rescue mission. A quantum bridge vessel was dispatched, its advanced technology easily overcoming the hazards that threatened the visitor. When the ship was brought safely to Terra Nova, its sole occupant emerged Alexis Ramos, the Altarian researcher, who had warned the Council of the consequences of humanity's exile. Aged considerably by her long journey, she nevertheless stood tall as she was brought before Administrator Reyes. "You found a way through the void," Elena observed, welcoming the Altarian to the government center. "We always suspected someone might eventually. It took 7 years of research and every resource I could muster." Alexis replied, her translator rendering her tonal language into the human standard. "The Council is in disarray, Administrator Reyes. Without human technology and innovation, the carefully balanced system has begun to collapse. Some species have already retreated to their homeworlds, abandoning the principles of cooperation that once bound us together. And yet you came alone, Elena noted. Not as an official emissary. Alexis lowered her eyes in the Altarian gesture of humility. The Council would not sanction an expedition. They fear what they might find that humanity has thrived, without them perhaps even surpassed what we once were together. But I had to know. I had to see for myself what had become of the species I spent my life studying. Elena gestured toward the broad windows that offered a panoramic view of Nova City, where human and Novatian architecture blended seamlessly into a metropolis unlike any in Council space. And what do you see, Researcher Ramos? A miracle, Alexis admitted, moving closer to the window. You've built something remarkable here, a true partnership of equals. The very thing the Council always claimed to represent but never achieved. Marcus, who had remained silent during the exchange, finally spoke. Will others follow you, now that you've proven the void can be crossed? Eventually, Alexis confirmed. The knowledge cannot be suppressed forever, and there are many who have come to regret the Council's decision, though few will admit it openly. Elena considered this information carefully. The prospect of renewed contact with Council species raised complex questions for the society they had built. Would the old fears and prejudices threaten what they had created, or could they forge a new kind of relationship, one based on genuine respect, rather than the hierarchical structure of the Council? You are welcome to stay and observe our civilization, Elena finally said to Alexis. When others follow, and they will, we want them to understand what we've built here and why it works. In the months that followed, Alexis Ramos immersed herself in the culture of New Horizon, documenting the remarkable partnership between humans and Novatians, and the technological advancements that had flourished in freedom from Council restrictions. Her presence was the first step in what would become known as the reconciliation, the gradual reconnection between humanity's new civilization and the species they had left behind. 3 years after Alexis's arrival, the first official delegation from Council space reached New Horizon. By then, humanity had established colonies on 7 planets across 3 star systems, all linked by quantum bridge technology that made the vast distances between them seem insignificant. The delegation comprised of representatives from 23 species, notably all from the group of 34 that had voted against humanity's exile, was received not with resentment or triumph, but with measured openness. Elena, serving her final term as administrator, before planned retirement, personally welcomed them to Terra Nova. You have come a long way to see what became of us, she addressed the assembled delegation in the grand chamber of the government center. You will find we are not the same civilization you cast out a decade ago. We have learned, grown, and built something new, something we believe is better than what came before. Zorlat, still serving as High Speaker, despite advanced age, spread wing feathers in the gesture that once signaled the opening of Council proceedings. We have come to learn, Administrator Reyes, perhaps even to make amends if such is possible after what was done. Elena's gaze swept over the delegation, recognizing faces from the old Council chambers, some who had argued against the exile, others who had remained silent in the face of fear-driven rhetoric. Amends begin with understanding, she replied. You will be given full access to our settlements, our technology, our way of life. Observe, learn, and then we can discuss what comes next. The delegation spent 3 months on Terra Nova, witnessing firsthand the society that had emerged from exile. They marveled at the quantum bridge technology that had once been merely theoretical in Council space. They observed human and Novatian children learning together in schools that taught both species languages and cultural traditions. They saw a civilization built on principles of genuine equality and knowledge sharing rather than the carefully maintained power balances of the Council. When it came time for the delegation to return to Council, Space High, Speaker Zorlat requested a private audience with Elena. In the quiet garden adjoining the government center, among plants transplanted from Earth and native Novan flora growing in harmony, the two leaders, representatives of such different approaches to civilization, spoke candidly. "We made a terrible mistake," Zorlat admitted, feathers shifting to the blue-gray pattern that indicated deep regret in Avarian emotional displays. "We let fear guide our decisions, and in doing so, we nearly destroyed everything we had built." "Fear is a powerful motivator," Elena acknowledged. "It can drive us to protect what we value, but it can also blind us to better possibilities." "The Council wishes to propose a new relationship," Zorlat said, coming to the purpose of the meeting. "Not to ask you to return. We understand that the civilization you've built here is something precious and unique. But perhaps to establish diplomatic relations, cultural exchange, even limited technology sharing." Elena had anticipated this proposal. The reports from Council space painted a clear picture. While some worlds had managed to adapt to humanity's absence, many were still struggling. The Jumpgate network in particular had never been fully restored, leaving interstellar travel cumbersome and slow. "We will consider your proposal," she replied carefully. "But, understand this, we will not accept any relationship based on the old hierarchies. If we are to engage with the Council again, it must be as true equals with mutual respect for each other's sovereignty and achievements." Zorlat spread wings wide in the gesture of solemn promise. "It cannot be otherwise, Administrator Reyes. Your exile taught us that much at least." As the delegation prepared to depart, Marcus, now serving as Director of Security for the United Colonies, joined Elena on the observation deck overlooking the spaceport. They watched in silence as the Council vessel powered up its engines, the technology a pale imitation of the quantum drives that powered human ships. "Do you think it will work?" Marcus asked. "This new relationship they're proposing?" Elena considered the question, thinking back to that day in the Council chamber, when humanity's fate had been decided by those who feared what they did not fully understand. "I think it has to," she replied. "Not for our sake, we would continue to thrive regardless, but for theirs and for the generations to come." She gestured toward a group of children, human and Novation, watching the departure from a nearby viewing platform, their faces filled with curiosity rather than apprehension. "That's the future we're building, Marcus. A future where different species look at each other with wonder instead of fear. If our exile helped make that possible, perhaps it was worth the journey." The Council ship rose gracefully into the triple sunset of New Horizon, carrying with it the seeds of reconciliation. Behind it, the sprawling metropolis of Nova City gleamed in the fading light, a testament to humanity's resilience and vision. Elena Reyes, who had led her people through exile and into Renaissance, gazed up at the multicolored sky where three suns cast their light from different angles, creating a complexity of illumination unknown on Earth. It was different here, but in many ways, better, richer, more nuanced, more full of possibility. They had been cast out, but in leaving, they had found something profound: the freedom to build a civilization based not on fear of difference, but on celebration of it. And now, perhaps they could share that vision with those who had once rejected them. As darkness fell and the stars became visible, star patterns entirely different from those seen from Earth, Elena reflected that exile had not been an ending, but a beginning. Sometimes, it took being pushed to the edge to discover that the universe was wider and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. In the years to come, careful diplomatic relations would be established between the United Colonies and the reformed Galactic Council. Knowledge and culture would flow between the civilizations, enriching both. The quantum bridge technology would eventually be shared under careful protocols that ensured it would be used for connection rather than conquest. And on a hillside overlooking Nova City, a monument would be erected, not to commemorate humanity's exile, but to honor the journey that followed. At its center stood a simple crystal sculpture, reminiscent of the council chamber, where the fateful vote had been cast, but transformed into a symbol of light and hope rather than judgment. The inscription, written in human standard Novation script and the languages of 23 former council species, read simply, "Cast out, we found our way. May all who journey find such grace." Beneath the monument on warm evenings, when all three suns had set, human and Novation children would gather to hear the stories of Earth of Exile and of the brave new world their ancestors had built among the stars. And sometimes, visitors from distant council worlds would join them, listening in wonder to the tale of how humanity, when told to leave, had not waited to be told twice, and in doing so had found a better home than the one they left behind.